A late-night consult. In the maternity ward, I saw the woman who was supposed to be in London for a research fellowship. My wife. She was holding her newborn son, her face a mask of exhaustion and bliss, leaning against another man's chest. I knew the man holding her. He was her student and her lover, and I was her son's lead surgeon. It was 2 a.m. when an emergency call dragged me to an obstetrics consult. I pushed open the door to the delivery room and froze, the scene before me stealing the air from my lungs. My wife, Dr. Clare Sullivan, who was supposed to be an ocean away on a prestigious fellowship, was lying pale and washed out on the hospital bed. Beside her, a handsome young man stood vigil. When she saw me, Claire's eyes widened in shock. She whispered my name, her voice laced with guilt. The man beside her, however, shot me a look that was a toxic cocktail of defiance, pride, and contempt. My mind was reeling, but there was no time for questions. I forced myself to walk past them to the neonatal incubator to assess the situation. The patient was a newborn with a congenital intracranial tumor, which was why the OB team had called in neurology and oncology. After we stabilized the infant, we transferred him to the operating room. As a specialist from the oncology department, I was assigned to be the lead surgeon. Inside the OR, my colleagues were already whispering. "Did you hear that?" The young guy called the patient in 052 Professor. "Yeah, I heard it too. The mother is 32, but that guy with her can't be a day over 20-something. They don't look like a married couple." The gossip flew back and forth, a flurry of knowing glances and unspoken conclusions. This kind of drama wasn't uncommon in a hospital, and I'd seen my share of it. I just never imagined it would one day be my own story. I truly never thought Claire would betray me. But looking back, the signs were all there. 2 years ago, she couldn't stop praising her student, Dylan Reed. A year ago, she suddenly announced she was leaving for a fellowship in London. I was buried in work at the time and didn't suspect a thing. Now I realized she must have been having the affair even then. With her own student. A sharp pain lanced through my chest, and my eyes began to burn. I took a deep breath, forcing the emotion down, and prepared for the surgery. The tumor's location was tricky, nestled deep in the newborn's brain. The surgery was high risk, compounded by the infant's fragility. The neurology specialists and I spent hours mapping out the best approach. The operation was a grueling marathon, lasting 2 days and 1 night. In the end, we managed to save the small life. But the tumor had compressed a critical nerve cluster. The child would likely have cerebral palsy. When I finally stepped down from the operating table, my legs were jelly. If a quick-thinking nurse hadn't shoved a bottle of glucose water into my hand, I would have collapsed right there on the floor. After I changed, I walked out of the surgical suite. Dylan had his arm around Claire, both of them waiting anxiously by the door. The moment Claire saw me, she rushed forward. "Sam," she asked, her voice trembling, "how's the baby?" Seeing them together, my heart turned to ash. For 2 days and nights, I hadn't eaten a single hot meal, my entire being consumed by intense, high-stakes concentration. And in all that time, she hadn't shown a shred of concern for me. Not a single word of explanation. I switched to my professional, detached tone. "The baby is out of immediate danger," I said, my voice flat. "However, there will be complications, including cerebral palsy. The family should be prepared." Dylan's face contorted with rage. He pointed a shaking finger at me and screamed, "Dr. Carter, did you do this on purpose? Because Claire left you, you took it out on my son in the operating room? You piece of shit, why don't you just die?" Claire started sobbing, her accusations joining his. "Sam, I'm so disappointed in you. I thought you were a professional, but you brought your personal feelings into the OR. My Leo is so small. How could you be so cruel?" My colleagues stared, stunned by the sudden turn of events. They never would have guessed I was connected to the couple they'd been gossiping about. Crack! The sound of my hand striking her cheek echoed in the quiet hallway. I was seeing red, the rage boiling over. Before Dylan could react, I spun and drove my fist into his face. There was a sickening crunch as his nose broke, blood instantly gushing down his chin. He stared at me with pure hatred, ready to lunge, but my colleagues scrambled to hold him back. "You adulterous pieces of trash, you dare accuse me?" I grabbed Claire by the hair, forcing her to look at me. "I am Dr. Samuel Carter. I give every single surgery my all. I have a clear conscience with every patient who has ever been on my table. But you? While I was in there, fighting to save a life, you were shacked up with your student, making a baby. You were supposed to be in London. Is this your fellowship?" Claire flinched, her eyes darting away, unable to meet my gaze. But Dylan, clutching his bloody nose, snarled through his teeth, his eyes promising murder. "Sam, you're a top oncologist. How could a small tumor leave complications like this?" You did it on purpose, he spat. Claire worked so hard to bring Leo into this world, and now my poor son will never be normal. Are you satisfied now? Hearing his words, Claire's guilt evaporated, replaced by a renewed wave of fury. She glared at me, her voice dripping with venom. Sam Carter, you take your anger out on a helpless child. You don't deserve to be a doctor. Just because you're a sterile piece of trash who can't have children, you had to hurt mine. You did this on purpose. I couldn't understand how the gentle, quiet woman I had married could transform into this hideous monster. This isn't my doing, I said, my voice dripping with scorn as I looked at them both. This is your karma. I let go of her hair. Instead of wasting your time screaming at me, you should probably start thinking about your child's future. Word of the incident reached the hospital director's office quickly. He understood the situation and, to his credit, gave me a 2-month leave of absence to clear my head. I needed it. It was time to reevaluate my entire relationship with Claire. Claire came from a poor, rural town. We met in grad school at the same university, fell in love. After graduation, I started my residency at the hospital while she pursued her Ph.D. Her family had no money, so I paid for all of her expenses during her doctoral program. After we got married, we struggled to conceive. Claire was at a critical point in her research, so we put the issue on the back burner. Later, with a recommendation from my parents, she landed a teaching position at Northwood University, becoming one of their youngest professors. Over the last few years, she had grown increasingly cold. I thought the passion had just faded into a comfortable companionship. I never imagined she would cheat. If she was going to be ruthless, then so was I. During my leave, I immediately froze her bank cards and put a lien on our shared properties. I also compiled a complete list of our marital assets and filed a motion with the court to have them frozen pending the divorce. It didn't take long for her to call, her voice sharp and acidic. Sam, why do you have to freeze my bank cards in our house? Our house. I let out a cold laugh. We're not divorced yet. When did it become just yours? Claire was seething on the other end. Sam Carter, I didn't want to do this, but you're forcing my hand. Fine. I'll see you in court. Just don't you dare regret it. I scoffed. Trust me, I'll never regret this. I wouldn't take used goods like you if you were free. I hung up. A few days later, I received the court summons. Mr. Carter, your wife has filed for divorce. You were summoned to appear in court. Good. I already had all my documents ready. On the day of the hearing, I was punctual. Claire was clearly prepared. Your Honor, she began, Carter is perpetually absent from our home. Our marriage has irretrievably broken down. I request a divorce and a division of our assets. Your Honor, I interjected calmly. Our marriage has indeed broken down, but it's because Dr. Sullivan was having an affair. Claire instinctively denied it. I did not. He's lying. I didn't even bother looking at her. I addressed the judge. Your Honor, the birth certificate and a DNA paternity test have already been submitted to the court. Claire stared at me in disbelief. Sam, where did you get his DNA? You were planning this all along, weren't you? You never trusted me. I should have divorced you years ago. I looked at her like she was an idiot. Did you forget? Both you and Dylan had your blood drawn when you registered to the hospital. She still wouldn't give up. You're lying. How did you get Leo's DNA? You must have done something during the surgery. We have to shave the head for a craniotomy, I said coldly. Was it really that hard to get a DNA sample? You planned all of this. You're still the same cold, heartless, selfish bastard you've always been. Silence. The judge banged his gavel. I continued. Your Honor, Dr. Sullivan has been cohabitating with another man, Dylan Reed, for the past year, with whom she has child. During this time, she claimed to be in London on a research fellowship. I have text messages to prove this. A few days ago, she attempted to transfer marital assets, but I had already filed a motion to have them frozen. Given these facts, I request that Dr. Sullivan be found at fault and be denied any share of the marital assets. The evidence was all there. The judge reviewed everything, shot me a sympathetic glance, and delivered his verdict. The respondent's request is granted. Claire was apoplectic. She stared at me, tears of rage and loss streaming down her face. $7 million in assets, her entire life's savings gone. Sam Carter, you are a cruel, heartless bastard. Don't think you've won. You'll get what's coming to you for what you did to Leo. I doubt I'll get what's coming to me, I said, turning to leave. But your karma seems to have arrived right on time. Congratulations on leaving with nothing. As I walked away, I could hear her stomping her feet in a futile, speechless rage. I glanced back once as I walked out of the courthouse. The sight of her face, pale with fury, filled me with a profound sense of satisfaction. A month had passed since the courtroom drama. I used the time off to truly rest. The constant, high-stress life of a surgeon had kept me wound-tight for years. This unexpected break felt like it had shaved a decade off my age. But my peaceful interlude was short-lived. A call from the hospital director brought me back to reality. Sam, there's something you need to know. Dylan Reed has filed a lawsuit against you for medical malpractice. The hearing is in 3 days. Understand, Director. I'll be there, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. It was just as I'd expected. A punk like Dylan wouldn't let it go that easily. The hospital has already retained our top legal counsel, the director added, his tone reassuring. You've been a dedicated and exemplary surgeon for years. We all believe in you. Try not to worry. Thank you, Director. His words were a comfort. I knew I would win this case, but having the hospital's full support eased the pressure considerably. The day of the hearing arrived quickly. I walked in with the hospital's lead attorney. Claire and Dylan were already there, waiting. When they saw me, their eyes practically shot flames. Dylan looked like a man on a holy crusade for his wife and child, but I didn't miss the flicker of pure greed in his eyes. He spoke first, his voice tight with hatred. Sam Carter, you were just jealous that Claire loves me. That's why you deliberately harmed our child. So what if you were her husband? Does that make you more important than a human life? His outburst stunned the courtroom into silence. He had just confessed, on the record, to sleeping with a married woman and fathering her child. Dylan's lawyer's face went green. Is this guy for real? He seemed to be thinking. What kind of idiot volunteers to put his own head on the chopping block? Sensing disaster, his lawyer quickly cut him off and proceeded to unload a mountain of supposed evidence. He cited obscure legal precedents, accused me of professional misconduct, of illegally obtaining genetic information, and finally, listed the damages. Dylan had the audacity to demand $50 million. My God, that was nearly my entire net worth. It was clear Claire had told him everything she knew. But our lawyer was no amateur. He systematically dismantled their case, presenting detailed surgical logs, peer-reviewed clinical reports on the specific type of tumor, the signed consent forms outlining the risks, the pathology reports, and clinical studies on post-operative complications. His arguments were sharp, precise, and irrefutable. In summary, he concluded, the patient's post-operative complications fall within the statistically normal range of outcomes for this specific, high-risk procedure. My client, Dr. Carter, adhered to all established medical protocols and demonstrated no professional negligence whatsoever. My conduct had been impeccable. It was an ironclad defense. Dylan's lawyer, for all his bluster, was left with nothing. Dylan began to lose control, pointing at me and screaming. You did it on purpose, Carter. You can't have kids of your own, so you destroy someone else's. You're an animal. You're going to burn in hell. Leo's just a baby, and he has to suffer because of you. You have so much money. What would it hurt to give us some of it? He yelled, lunging toward me before being restrained by the bailiffs. I watched his pathetic meltdown with cold detachment. This man was human garbage, a parasite on society. He not only seduced his professor, but was now trying to steal my life's work. How else was a fresh out of college student going to get his hands on $50 million? The court quickly ruled in my favor. As I was leaving the courthouse, Claire's voice stopped me. She and Dylan had caught up, their faces still twisted with rage. Sam, a person with no professional ethics like you has no right to be a doctor. The court might be on your side, but God won't spare you. I frowned, irritated by her noise. All those years of higher education, and she sounded like an ignorant fool, constantly appealing to vague notions of morality and karma, completely devoid of any legal sense. Dylan's eyes were venomous. You selfish bastard. You should go to hell. You're sterile. You're not even a man. You hurt her mother's precious grandbaby. She will never forgive you for this. Her mother. The pieces clicked into place. So, Claire's mother knew about Dylan all along. She had condoned the affair and the child. Fine. If that's how they wanted to play, then the gloves were coming off. Sure enough, a few days later, my phone rang. It was Claire's mother. Samuel Carter, why won't you let me into the building? That's my daughter's condo, she shrieked. I laughed coldly. Claire and I are divorced. The condo is mine. Why should I let you in? You're full of shit, she screamed. Even if you're divorced, that condo should belong to my daughter. I was done talking to her. I hung up. The doorman wouldn't let her in anyway, but I underestimated her. She called the police. A short while later, there was a knock on my door. The police were there, with her in tow. She had spun a tale about how I had seized her property and was illegally barring her from entry. She looked at me smugly, certain the law was on her side. I finally understood where Claire got her complete disregard for reality. Officers, I began calmly. I am divorced from her daughter. Her daughter cheated on me during our marriage and had a child with another man. I presented the documents, the property deed, the divorce certificate, the court judgment, and the official title transfer. These documents prove that I am the sole owner of this residence and have every right to be here. As the officer reached for the papers, Claire's mother snatched them away. "These are fakes," she yelled. "Don't believe him. He's lying." I roll my eyes. "Ma'am, do you have dementia? Or are you just pretending to be insane?" My words triggered her. She lunged at me, her hands like claws. "You little bastard, you dare insult me?" She turned back to the police. "Officers, don't listen to him. He was the one who was never home. He was obviously the one cheating." The officer frowned, stepping between us to take the documents from her. "Ma'am, do not interfere with our duties," he said sternly. She wouldn't quit. He must have tricked Claire and stolen her condo. "Officers, you have to help me." The officer glanced at the documents, then at the hysterical woman, his expression weary. Seeing her audience, she doubled down. "And he messed up in the operating room and gave my grandson brain damage. A man like that deserves divine punishment." I let out an exasperated sigh. This was beyond ridiculous. Like mother, like daughter. "Your grandson's condition has nothing to do with me. If you continue to slander me, I can and will sue you." That gave her a moment's pause, but she puffed out her chest. "It was you. I'm not afraid of you suing me." The police officer had heard enough. "Do you have any proof?" She faltered. I let out a cold smirk and handed the officer the malpractice suit judgment. "Officer, she doesn't have proof, but I do. This is the legal verdict from the case that was just settled 2 days ago. It proves my innocence." The officer took it and read it carefully. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with sympathy. Claire's mother panicked. "Officers, you can't be fooled by him. That paper must be a forgery. He's a black-hearted liar." She lunged for the document again. The officer's patience snapped. "Ma'am, you have filed a false police report and are now attempting to assault an officer. One more move, and we will take you into custody." She froze for a second, then collapsed onto the floor, starting to wail. "Oh, woe is me. I can't go on. My son-in-law cheated my daughter out of her money, maimed my precious grandbaby, and now I can't even speak a word of truth. Is there any justice left in this world?" I was speechless. "Ma'am, do you hear yourself? This is a society of laws, not a theater where you can reverse the truth by crying. Your daughter had an affair. How do you have a nerve to say any of this?" My word struck a nerve. She forgot her act and screamed. "Sam Carter, you bastard. You're just angry because you can't have children yourself, so you hurt my grandson. You're worse than an animal. You don't even deserve to be a man. You don't deserve to be alive." My face hardened. "Why don't you tell the officers about my fertility?" I asked coldly. "About why I can't have children. Don't you know?" Her face went pale. She clamped her mouth shut, suddenly silent. "After Claire and I were married, we couldn't conceive. I got checked out first. I was perfectly healthy. I tried to get Claire to see a doctor, but her mother threw a fit, swearing her daughter was fine and that I must be hiding my own problem. It got worse. She started secretly mixing some natural remedy from her village into my food. It resulted in agonizing abdominal pain and a trip to the ER where I found out it had permanently damaged my reproductive system, making it nearly impossible for me to ever have children. Her mother, unrepentant, took this as proof that she'd been right all along. Furious, I dragged Claire to a specialist, where tests confirmed she had polycystic ovary syndrome, making her chances of conceiving extremely low. And now, this woman had the gall to bring it up. The sheer audacity was staggering. Claire cheated, and she had another man's child. "That is an undeniable fact," I said, my voice like ice. "As for your claim that I harmed your grandson, that is a baseless lie, and the court has already confirmed it. And this condo you're squatting in," I continued, "was purchased by me in my name before I was ever married. I have the right to do whatever I want with it. You have 3 days to move out. If you're not gone by then, I'm hiring a company to throw all of your belongings on the street." "Impossible. My daughter bought this condo for my retirement. You have no right to kick me out." Claire's mother exploded, lunging at me again. "Sam Carter, you heartless monster. It wasn't enough to ruin my daughter and grandson. Now you're coming after me." The police officer quickly restrained her and hauled her away. 3 days later, I showed up at the condo with a locksmith and a team of movers. The old woman had a lot of stuff. It took the movers 2 hours, and they still weren't done. That's when I heard her voice coming from the stairwell, talking on her phone. Divorced long ago. My daughter is brilliant. She was always too good for him. He's just some washed-up doctor, and sterile too. He'll die alone with no one to carry on his name." Her voice was a stream of curses directed at me. The movers exchanged awkward glances. I spoke calmly. Finish the job today, and I'll triple your pay. Their eyes lit up. Instantly, they were a whirlwind of motion, hauling boxes and furniture out the door. Just then, Claire's mother walked in. She saw the scene and let out a piercing shriek. Stop! All of you, stop right there. Somebody help. I'm being robbed. Then she spotted me, sitting in the living room. Well, look who it is. I should have known. I wasn't done with you, and you have the nerve to show up at my door. She was still on the phone. Brenda, you have to get people over here now. Sam Carter is trying to kill me. I had to smirk. She made it sound like she was some damsel in distress being tormented by a villain. It didn't take long for Claire to arrive, a pack of relatives trailing behind her like a storm cloud. Seeing the chaos, she yelled, "Everybody stop." No one listened. The movers just looked at each other, then at me. Claire followed their gaze, and her eyes locked on mine. Have you had enough? She demanded. You're a grown man. How can you be so petty? Are you trying to drive my mother to her grave? I didn't even bother to answer her. I just waved a hand at the movers. Keep going. Ignore them. Hearing that, and with the promise of triple pay fresh in their minds, the crew got back to work. Claire and her relatives tried to block them, shoving and grabbing at the workers. The scene devolved into a chaotic scuffle. Claire's mother charged at me, intent on scratching my eyes out, but I sidestepped and shoved her back. She collapsed onto the floor and started wailing, screaming for someone to call the police and demanding I pay her for her injuries. I calmly pulled out my own phone, dialed 911 myself, and then started a game of Candy Crush while I waited. The police arrived quickly and immediately took control, restraining the relatives who had been physically assaulting the movers. Claire's mother immediately launched into her performance. Officers, you have to help me. My son-in-law, he was never home. He cheated on my daughter, and now that they're divorced, he's trying to steal my retirement home. I watched her act with cold amusement. Your ability to twist the truth is truly impressive. I stood up and handed the officer the folder I'd prepared, the property deed and the court judgments. Officer, this is my property. These people are trespassing and have assaulted these workers. Please remove them. The mother grabbed the officer's arm. Officer, don't listen to his lies. This condo is my daughter's. I looked at Claire, a sardonic smile on my face. Why don't you tell them whose condo it is? Claire's face flushed with embarrassment. She tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mom, just stop. Why should I stop? You're too timid. You let people walk all over you. Her mother snapped back at her. Claire's face turned beet red, but she couldn't say a word. I let out a short, sharp laugh. Since you won't say it, I will. I bought this condo before we were married. My name is the only one on the deed. It has absolutely nothing to do with Claire. Impossible, her mother shrieked. My daughter bought this for me. How could it be yours? I looked at them both with utter contempt. During the years Claire was in her Ph.D. program, I paid for her tuition and all her living expenses. Where exactly would she have gotten the money to buy a condo? I only let you live here out of respect for her. I thought it was a kind gesture. I never imagined you'd try to claim it as your own. Claire's mother was stunned into silence. The police officer looked at the documents with a pained expression. All right, everyone down to the station to give a statement. And since your family assaulted these men, you'll have to cover their medical expenses. At the mention of money, Claire's relatives turned on her. You said you were so successful. You said this guy was lucky to have you. But you were living off him the whole time. If we'd known the truth, we never would have come. Now we have to pay. I'm not paying a dime. She tricked me into coming here. Me neither. I'm innocent. The accusations and insults became too much for Claire's mother. You bunch of vipers, she screamed at them. When you wanted to get on my daughter's good side, you couldn't say enough nice things. Now that there's money involved, you throw her under the bus. I see you for who you really are. The relatives were just as vicious. Who told your daughter to lie to us? Bragging about being a professor, so successful. Turns out she was just living off a man. Exactly. I always wondered how a poor student like Claire could afford a place like this. You told me I was just jealous. And look what happened. He dumped her, and now she's trying to drag us down with her. No chum, we're not paying. The group descended into a screaming match until the police physically separated them and hauled everyone down to the station. The movers, eager for their triple pay, were more than happy to cooperate and give their statements. At the station, we ran into the same officer who had come to my condo a few days prior. You again? He asked, looking at me. Officer, I swear, it's not me this time, I said quickly. It's her mother. She refuses to leave my property. The mother, of course, wouldn't have it. What are you talking about? That condo is my retirement home. My daughter bought it from me. Claire tugged on her sleeve. Mom, please just be quiet. After the divorce, the condo was legally awarded to Sam. I snorted. You have a talent for telling half-truths. The condo was mine before the marriage. The divorce had nothing to do with it. Claire's face burned with humiliation, and she mumbled something unintelligible. I ignored her and handed the legal documents to the officer. He glanced at them and nodded. Yes, the property clearly belongs to Mr. Carter. However, your methods were a bit extreme. I gave a respectful nod. You're right, officer. I apologize, but I was out of options. She refused to leave, and I didn't know what else to do. Faced with my polite demeanor, he couldn't bring himself to be harsh. You decide. Don't let it happen again. I won't. I promise. The moment the officer finished speaking, Claire's mother started her act again. Officer, how can you just take his word for it? That deed must be a fake. Claire chimed in. Sam, you don't have to be so nasty. No matter what, she's still my mother. You shouldn't be so cruel. I laughed out loud. Cruel? We're divorced. She's not my elder. And let's not forget, she came to my home and slandered me first. Claire's voice rose. You're a grown man. Can't you tolerate a little disagreement? She's an old woman. Can't you have a little compassion? I was so angry I could only laugh. So I'm supposed to just let her be unreasonable because she's old? Is that written in a law somewhere? Sam, Claire's voice was sharp. You have no empathy for the elderly. You're cold, selfish, and heartless. I held up a hand to stop her. Save it. Your attempts at emotional blackmail are pathetic. You should be more concerned with figuring out how you're going to compensate the workers. That single sentence made her relatives snap to attention. Pay them? Why should we pay? It was Claire's mother who called us here. Besides, we don't have any money. She's a big-shot professor. She can afford it. But Claire's mother didn't want her daughter to pay. It was you who threw the punches. Why should my daughter pay for it? The two sides immediately started screaming at each other over the payment, and the scene once again spiraled out of control. The police had to separate them again. I watched, thoroughly entertained. In the end, to save what little face she had left, Claire agreed to cover the costs. She bit her lip. Mom, please just be quiet for a minute. She turned to the workers. Fine, how much do you want? I gave the workers a subtle look. They understood immediately, inflating the number. The foreman stepped forward. $5,000. Claire's mother shrieked. What? 5,000? Are you trying to rob us? The workers weren't intimidated. One of them spoke up. We've got cuts and bruises. We lost a whole day's work, and we have families to feed. 5,000 isn't asking a lot. Claire gritted her teeth. Fine, I'll pay. No, don't you dare give them a cent, her mother yelled. Claire's face was a mask of thunder. Mom, be quiet. After receiving the money, the workers left, satisfied. Claire's mother was stomping her feet in a rage, which only made me happier. But I knew Claire wouldn't let this go. There would be another move. Sure enough, a few days later, a video appeared online. It was hospital security footage of me outside the operating room. It was silent, edited to look like I was attacking a patient and her family member without any provocation. The internet exploded. Commenters savaged me, calling me an abusive, unethical doctor. They demanded I be fired, that my medical license be revoked. A doctor hitting a patient in this day and age? Unbelievable. That woman just gave birth. She looks so weak, and he just hits her? What kind of monster is he? A man with no ethics has no business being a doctor. Revoke his license before he hurts someone else. I agree. Metropolitan General needs to fire Sam Carter immediately. It got worse. I was doxxed. My personal information was plastered all over the web. Protesters started showing up outside the hospital and my condo building. My parents found out and were livid, ready to go to war for me. I told them not to. This was clearly Claire's revenge, but she had made a critical mistake. The internet has a memory. Once the public learned the truth, she would be the one facing their wrath, and the fall would be catastrophic. I didn't want my parents to worry, so I handled it myself that night. I created a Twitter account and posted my response. First, I uploaded the full, unedited security footage from the hospital with the original audio. My enraged voice filled the clip. You adulterous pieces of trash. You dare accuse me? I am Dr. Samuel Carter. I give every single surgery my all. I have a clear conscience with every patient who has ever been on my table. But you? While I was in there, fighting to save a life, you were shacked up with your student, making a baby. You were supposed to be in London. Is this your fellowship? Below the video, I attached images of my marriage certificate, the divorce decree, the court judgment granting me the divorce on grounds of adultery, the DNA paternity test, and a verdict from the malpractice lawsuit. Claire wanted to use public opinion to destroy me. Fine. I would lay out the entire, unvarnished truth for the world to see. The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. Holy crap. So SHE was the one cheating on him. This is terrifying. His wife cheats on him, has a baby with her student, and then has the nerve to cause a scene in his workplace? No wonder he was so furious. If that were me, I would have beaten both of them to a pulp. Am I the only one who noticed the malpractice verdict? My grandfather had a tumor that Dr. Carter operated on. Every other doctor said it was hopeless, but Dr. Carter fought like hell and saved him. He's a brilliant surgeon, but always so humble about it. That's true. He's a genuinely good person. My family is from a rural area. We couldn't get an appointment, but Dr. Carter added us to his schedule and only charged us the basic copay. We're so grateful. From what I can find, Dr. Carter's family is very wealthy. He was named one of the city's top young physicians. He's this successful, and his wife still cheated on him? Is she brain dead? Dead? The story went viral. Major news outlets picked it up. Suddenly, Claire and Dylan were public enemy number one. My feed was flooded with apologies from people who'd been duped by Claire's edited video. They were furious at having been manipulated. It didn't stop there. Internet sleuths uncovered the fact that Dylan was Claire's student. You guys don't even know. That Dylan Reed guy was in Professor Sullivan's class. They were always flirting during lectures. It wasn't subtle at all. It was disgusting. She cheated with her own student? Wow. Talk about a twisted fantasy. Trash. Get them out of Northwood University. Hashtag fire Clare Sullivan. Hashtag fire Clare Sullivan. Hashtag expel Dylan Reed. Claire was infamous. The internet was a cesspool of vitriol directed at her and Dylan. Then, a Northwood University student leaked a video from Dylan's thesis defense. In the clip, an old, tenure professor nonchalantly flips through Dylan's paper, shakes his head, and says, "There's no point in reading this. Professor Sullivan will make sure he passes anyway." That single sentence was a bombshell. It was clear evidence of academic fraud. The internet erupted. Hashtags like hashtag revoke Dylan Reed's degree and hashtag investigate Northwood trended for days. Users meticulously pieced together the timeline of my story, confirming Claire's adultery and her affair with Dylan. Under immense pressure, Northwood University finally released a statement. In response to the incident involving Professor Clare Sullivan, the university has taken the following disciplinary actions. 1. Suspension of Professor Sullivan's teaching duties. 2. A formal reprimand issued university-wide. 3. A 3-month salary deduction. It was a slap on the wrist. I knew then that someone powerful was protecting her. If that was the game, then I would play it her way. A few days later, after the scandal had been buried by new headlines, Claire called me. "Sam, did you really think that would be enough to bring me down?" She gloated. "I'm a rising star at this university. I have over a dozen research projects under my name. I'm on track for a major fellowship. Do you really think the university would abandon me over a little bit of bad press?" "Is that so?" I replied coolly. "Well, let's hope you're still smiling in the end." I hung up. The woman was a fool. Claire came from nothing. She was smart, but hardly a genius. In a world full of brilliant people, why would the university go to such lengths to protect her? The answer was simple, because she was a Carter by marriage. My father is one of the most renowned surgeons in the country. His skill is the stuff of legend. He saved countless lives. Though he's been retired for years, the powerful and influential still seek him out, sending private jets to bring him in for consultations. After I realized someone was protecting Claire, I did some digging. It turned out someone trying to curry favor with my father had called in a favor with the university's administration to take care of his daughter-in-law. That administrator, unaware of the full story, was simply following orders to protect her. For years, Claire's academic career had been on easy mode. That's how she became a professor at such a young age. Without her connection to my father, she would have been nothing. I had been so blind. I once thought her ambition was a sign of strength and independence. Now I saw it for what it was, arrogant entitlement. A few days later, I was at the gym when my phone rang. It was Claire. "Sam, was this you?" she shrieked, her voice cracking with fury. I chuckled. "All your projects have been suspended, and you've been demoted to a lab assistant. Are you smiling now?" She was grinding her teeth so hard I could hear it over the phone. "Impossible. If you had that kind of power, you wouldn't just be some doctor." "That was the path I chose," I said, my voice dripping with contempt. "I wanted to be recognized for my own merits, not my family's name. But you? The only reason you have anything today is because you married into the Carter family. Because you were my wife. Did you honestly believe you accomplished all of this on your own? Don't be a fool, Claire. My father is a living legend in the medical world." The president of Northwood University addresses him as Dr. "Carter, sir, where do you think those dozen projects came from? You threw away a diamond to pick up a pebble. My words plunged her into a shocked, disbelieving silence. No, impossible, she muttered. He muttered. I was done with her. I hung up. With her projects gone, her title stripped, and her finances wiped out, Claire was forced to move into a tiny campus dorm with her mother, Dylan, and the baby. I heard that students would stare at them with disgust, and some even threw trash at their door. I didn't push it any further. A cornered animal is a dangerous one. A slow bleed is better than a quick kill. Dylan was unemployed, relying entirely on Claire's meager lab assistant salary. It would have been enough to get by, if not for one thing. Cerebral palsy is a financial black hole. 2 months later, she appeared before me again. She blocked my car, her face haggard and desperate. Sam, I was wrong. Please, let's get back together, okay? I gunned the engine, ready to drive around her. But she threw herself onto the pavement, kneeling in front of my car. I got out, intending to drag her out of the way, but she latched onto my leg, sobbing, "Just run me over. I don't care, as long as you can forgive me." A crowd was starting to gather. I couldn't stand the humiliation. My face dark, I pulled her into the car and drove to a quiet coffee shop. "It was Dylan," she began, the lies flowing effortlessly. "He seduced me. I was feeling lost, and I made a mistake. I think it was because he reminded me of you when you were younger. You were never home, and I guess I just started seeing him as a substitute. And all the other professors I know, so many of them have affairs. I guess I was just influenced by them. But look at them, their families are still together. Please, just forgive me this one time. I swear it will never happen again." I had been listening with bored indifference, but that last part piqued my interest. I deliberately frowned, feigning disbelief to draw her out. "Don't be ridiculous, Claire. The faculty at Northwood are respected academics. They're not like that." Her eyes lit up. She took the bait. "It's all true. Professor Albright from the arts department, he has a regular appointment at a high-end escort service, but his wife forgave him. Professor Miller in the chemistry department is sleeping with 2 of her male grad students. Her husband threatened to divorce her, but in the end, he just let it go. And the dean of the West Campus, he uses graduation as leverage to get female students to attend private parties with donors. His wife even helps him organize it." She rattled off names and scandals, each one more shocking than the last. Her point was clear. "You see, Sam, everyone makes mistakes. But we're a family. There's nothing we can't work through. Just forgive me this one time, and we can go back to how things were. Please." After she finished, I was stunned. I couldn't believe she knew so much dirt. "Claire," I said, my voice flat, "don't you feel disgusted with yourself? The scheming is practically oozing out of you. You might be able to lie to me, but how can you possibly lie to yourself?" I stood up and walked out, leaving her standing there, speechless and confused. When I got in my car, I saw her phone on the passenger seat. I frowned. Claire had a habit. She always used her birthday as her password. On a whim, I typed it in. It unlocked. I opened her messages and almost laughed out loud. This woman was unbelievable. There were flirtatious chat logs with several male professors. And then I found the group chat she had with Dylan and her mother, a conversation that laid their entire plan bare. "Happy family, 3, Dylan. Claire, you just have to bear with it for a little while. Once you've got Sam Carter back on the hook, everything he has will be ours." "Mom, that's right, sweetie. His parents are old. It won't be for long. As soon as he lets his guard down, you start quietly transferring assets into my grandson's name." "Claire, I know. Just stay out of sight for a while. I'll let you know when I've got him under control." They were even plotting to get their hands on my parents' assets. Reading through the entire chat history, a white-hot rage burned through me. "Claire Sullivan, you brought this on yourself. Ever since the incident outside the OR, I had started carrying a button camera for my own protection. I never thought it would capture Claire spilling the university's darkest secrets. I compiled everything, the screenshots of the group chat and the video from the coffee shop. Then, I sent the entire package to the Department of Education and the university's ethics board. I trusted that they would see justice was done and clean up the rot in their academic community. After sending the evidence, I put in a request to join a medical outreach program in Appalachia. I needed to get away from her to escape the poison before she tried to drag me down again. I needed to find some peace. About 2 weeks later, the verdict came down. A massive scandal erupted at Northwood University. The professors Claire had named were all investigated and fell like dominoes. Beyond their affairs, investigators uncovered academic fraud, embezzlement, and bribery. They were all fired and permanently banned from teaching. The dean of the West Campus was facing criminal charges. The hospital director called to tell me the rest. After being fired from Northwood, Claire had moved her mother, Dylan, and the child into a small rental house off campus. One of the professors who had been fired, a a man who had lost his family, his career, and his reputation, blamed Claire for talking. He snapped. In the middle of the night, he went to her rental house, doused the front porch in gasoline, and lit a match. The fire killed all of them. By the time they were pulled from the wreckage and brought to the hospital, it was too late. All four were gone. Hearing the news, I felt a strange sense of detachment. Life is so fragile, but its fragility is no match for the ugliness of human nature. I stood under the open sky, looking out at the rolling hills. This was Appalachia, a world away from the city's toxic chaos. In the distance, a group of children were chasing each other, their laughter echoing in the clean air. Watching them, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't known in years. It was as if everything that had happened before had finally burned away, leaving nothing but ash. My old life was over. My new one was just beginning.